So recently I've been seeing this word pop up a lot on my YouTube algorithm, and the word is called looksmaxxing. And I understand that I may be a little bit late to the game, but I wanted to touch on this subject because it actually represents what has already existed in Korea for a very long time. And I thought it would be interesting to talk about this issue. Looksmaxxing has been on the rise for a couple of months now, or maybe a few months, and it seems to have taken the world by storm, especially among the younger generation. Of course, it might be just one of those YouTube fads that comes and passes, but I thought it would be interesting to look at this phenomenon as a way to understand how the younger generation views the world. This specific drift towards looks obsession and the idea that maximizing looks is the ultimate goal that solves any other issues in life is actually not a new concept in Korea. This idea of prioritizing physical appearance goes back to the early 2000s actually. And this was before K-pop became a global phenomenon. Maybe it even goes back way before modern society, but I'm not trying to track back to the origin of looks obsession. I'm just interested in how looksmaxxing resembles what has always existed in Korean society. A lot of people used to call this 외모지상주의. 외모지상주의. 외모 means looks. 지상주의 means you are focusing on looks. You're prioritizing looks. And if you translate to English, it's called lookism. 외모지상주의 is interestingly closely knit with the style that is prevalent in modern day K-pop. Excuse me. Even if you're not a fan of K-pop, you would still be able to imagine the flawless complexion, the perfect spotless image from head to toe, and the perfectly synchronized and standardized appearance of every group member, regardless of their different names. Every year, it just seems like old K-pop groups are replaced by a younger, more youthful-looking clones that get passed the baton to continue on its legacy. If you think about today, groups like Blackpink and BTS seem relevant. But in a couple of years, people will move on to other groups and forget about the current groups that paved the way. And it's just a constant cycle. But the reason why I mentioned K-pop is not to disparage them in any way, but to analogize the trend of looksmaxxing to the movement of K-pop. The rise of K-pop and looksmaxxing is not coincidental, but correlated. I might even say that the link between the two is even causal, but then we would have to also consider the rise of social media, because social media plays a huge role in the rise of popularity of K-pop and looksmaxxing. So if you think about it, isn't it fascinating how the advent of social media and the rise of K-pop happened almost simultaneously? Because around 10 years ago, Psy's Gangnam Style was one of the biggest things around the world. And during that time, YouTube was also on the rise. Fast forward to 2026, maybe this is not even surprising given the fact that looks became the most prized commodity in this attention-seeking economy. the core appeal of K-pop was all about flawless looks. It has always been about flawless looks. K-pop was built around this idea that maximizing looks leads to the best outcome because the majority of the people judge all other traits based on how you look. And look at how K-pop is doing around the world right now. It's very mainstream. Almost everyone around the world knows who BTS is. And they even made a comeback a couple of weeks ago. And they made a special on Netflix. So, isn't it interesting how the idea of K-pop and the idea of looksmaxxing are quite identical? Going back to the early 2000s, what happened during that time, which was right around when I was in middle school, was the rise of a single male beauty standard. And the particular look that people strived for was called the 꽃미남 look. And 꽃미남 literally means flower boy. And it's basically the same generic appearance that most K-pop groups today go for. So this 꽃미남 changed its name to other things over the years, and it's still prevalent in modern society. It's quite prevalent in groups like BTS, and I think BTS is a very good example of that. Men were awarded attention when they were able to present themselves as youthful, soft, and boyish, rather than hairy, masculine, or muscular. Much like how modern Instagram influencers rely on heavy filters and perfectly edited pictures, K-pop idol members relied on flawless makeup, perfect clothing, luxury brands, flamboyant styles, etc. So everything was basically about the presentation. The music did not matter. Their philosophy or their artistry behind their songs did not matter. It was all about how good they looked, how well they looked. And everything and every moment is a performance for them because your looks represent your character, your philosophy, and your identity. So eventually, maybe the rise of looksmaxxing is not surprising at all. Because nowadays, it's all about how you present yourselves on social media and how many followers you have on Instagram, how good your pictures look on your feed, how well designed your personal brand is. And that determines your value as a human being these days. But what we have to be concerned about is what actually comes next. Because right now, Korea is the #1 country with the lowest birth rate. We're talking about how men and women are not going on dates, how men and women are not getting married, how we're not having babies. And everyone is talking about how Korea is disappearing as a society. But consider this. Korea has always been and is always ahead, much like how we were always ahead of this looksmaxxing game. So the question we have to ask ourselves now is, what do we do now for the rest of the world?